There are some sporting occasions that simply defy explanation. One of those is this, the Milan San Remo 105th edition of the great race. 294 kilometers of sheer unpredictability, both in terms of the weather and indeed the eventual winner. The weather is indeed closing in on the finish today. We've had all kinds of seasons all rolled into one. As you can see, the finish line here in San Remo is overcast, and we have some very ominous clouds billowing. Temperature 9 Celsius, tumbling down from the 20s, which we were enjoying earlier on this morning. The riders didn't have such good fortune at the start. It was cold weather gear that they needed. Starting in Milan and cutting its way towards the coast. The final turn being made after the Turchino, and then along the coast. But, well, by the time you see the sea, there's an awful lot of racing still to go. And, of course, the Cipressa and the Poggio still to be contended before that race for the line in the streets of San Remo. So the wind is also going to play a factor today. It's moving northerly, and it should indeed, bizarrely, help the sprinters, the quick men today. And if you look at the profile of the course that they're dealing with, they may well have stripped out the Mani and the Pompeiana, which was supposed to be part of our course today. Bad weather and landslips meant that it was teed up for the sprinters, and it has drawn them in abundance. So the quick men might have their fun, well, they would do, if it wasn't for the weather. That's our course, and there's still a great deal of racing to be done. They have indeed passed the Turchino, and there's those last lumps before glory for somebody. So it's a wet start to the morning, as you can see. Deepest Milano, and indeed wanting the blessings, I guess, from the central cathedral. Finishing area, of course, for the Giro d'Italia in 2012. And rider Ejidal did his stuff. They were signing on today, and it was a contract.
It's always a really special race. It's been a few years since I did it for the last time. It's going to be a little wet, I'm afraid, but for sure we're going to make a really nice race today.
Well, there you are. Need to get themselves sorted out. Demar having a chat ahead of today, and in fact formed one of the breakaways.
It's going to be a nice day. It's anyway, in the end, really hard, and the weather plays a big role, and if it's wet, I think it can be also a big advantage for me or for my team.
So Degenkolb remaining extraordinarily optimistic. Went well in Paris-Nice, and he is one of the fast men, of course. So who will it be by the day's end? It's an eternal question. You saw Nibali there, and the great and the good set off today, well wrapped up against the elements. Tech Glamour not wondering what on earth he signed up to today. And in fact, as the flag finally fell, they did hold them up actually to get them to time today. And there have been some falls within the neutral zone. Rojas is one of those who found a tram line, we believe, and indeed was out before the race had even started proper. Well, the joggers on a half marathon in town today, also wrapped up against the cold, and they had to be out there. So 10:05 local time, kilometre zero, and the men with the flags and the clocks decided that they needed to have their fun as well. Finally, we were underway, and it wasn't long before those with a little bit of ambition to be in the early break decided to have a go. Bardiani's Bohème was one of the first to set things alight. It wasn't long before we settled down to a 7-man breakaway, incidentally. Neta Endura, again, part of the fun. Jan Barter was finally to beat for them. And so the 7 went away. And in fact, such was the pace early on, it seems that everyone just wanted to reach out and grab for it, I guess. 47.7 kilometers per hour for the first hour. So over the Tocchino, onto the coast, and then taking a right-hander along the Mediterranean. Well, teed up as being one for the quick men, but anything but. I think today, more than anything else, Dan Lloyd, you've got to be a hard man.
Oh, you certainly have. It was hard to believe from our viewpoint this morning here in San Remo. Such a beautiful morning here, sun in the sky, barely a cloud up there in the sky. And then, of course, we saw the pictures from the start in Milano and coming down with rain and only 10 degrees. And when they went over the Tocchino Pass there, which you just saw pictures of the break and then the bunch going through, it was down to around 4 degrees, and there were reports of some hail as well. And it seems as though this weather is following the peloton down to San Remo, because the clouds have rolled in and it's beginning to rain here as well.
37 is the break. We have 6 men in the breakaway as we stand. The weather is absolutely disgraceful. It started off with sunshine at the finish line today, and then 7 riders decided to go up the road. They're down to 6 at the moment, with the chasers not really putting the hammer down, but the pace has been high today, well over 40 kilometers per hour. In fact, the first hour was in excess of 47 kilometers per hour. Remarkable. We are in Liguria, the rain is coming down, the wind is also joining us. They may well have stripped out the difficult climbs on this event. The Mani and the Pompeiana no longer part of proceedings. It's drawn in the quick men, and indeed those who regard themselves as pacey but strong. You'll have to be both of those things today as we head for San Remo on the Mediterranean coast. We, of course, still have the grand finale of the Cipressa and the Poggio, but they will take that at pace because it will be a tailwind today. We're already on the coast, but as you can see, there are 97.4 kilometres to go. They've almost covered 200 kilometres already in the most appalling conditions imaginable. It's not a day you'd reach for your bicycle. You are very lucky to be at home and see these brave souls giving it a go.
Good to see Nathan Haas up here in the break, the Australian rider for Garmin Sharp. He's had a great start to the year down in the Tour Down Under, taking multiple top 10s on stages and 5th overall in that race, and then went on to take a stage win in the Herald Sun Tour, which followed it. He's recently done the 3 days of West Flanders. No notable results there, but good for Garmin Sharp to have a man up in the breakaway here. They've got a couple of outsiders for today's race, amongst them the Dutchman Sebastian Langeveld, and another Dutchman, in fact, on the team, Tom Jelte-Slagter, who's recently won 2 stages of Paris-Nice, and in fact could have had a good chance of winning that race overall had he not had a mechanical problem at the end of one of the stages. So they've got 2 cars to play, but this man in the breakaway means that they won't have to do any of the chasing behind, and they can save their remaining men to lead those 2 leaders into the final climbs of today.
Mark Demar is the man from United Healthcare that has backed out of this group. He was 7th in the general classification of Saint Louis, so he's on decent form, the man who some of you may remember took stage of the Tour of Britain a couple of years ago. Well, the 30-year-old from Curaçao, counts himself as a Dutchman, I think, but was Dutch Antilles champion at one point, yes, has decided that this break is not for him. There's a couple of riders as well have decided that the race is not for them either. Stefan de Niffel of I Am Cycling, IAM, stepped off the bike due to cold. As soon as that gets in your bones and you start to tighten up, it's not an easy thing to ride through. So it's not that he's a softie. He may well have been spending an awful lot of time on the front. It also depends on what conditions you've been riding on to bring you to this race, because this is almost a throwback, Dan Lloyd, to last season when we engaged in this and we were actually halted due to snow.
Yeah, we certainly were. It was truly epic last year. I think that's a word that's probably used a little bit too much in the world of cycling, but I guess that's the only thing you can say for today's weather. That
96.6 kilometres to go, and as you can see, we're still skirting the coast here. Little coves. Normally, this is a very pleasant part of the world to be. When we arrived a couple of days ago, we were suspecting that Noah himself, the builder of the Great Ark, would be narrowing in odds. Such was the rain as it was coming down, absolutely sheeting, and it looks like we are having similar conditions right now. It's batten down your hatches time if you want glory today. to the break. Martin Cilingi of Belkin, 36 years of age. The Tour of Belgium win it in 2006, but Paris-Roubaix third in 2011, you may remember. And on that occasion, finishing behind Van Sommeren and Fabien Cancellara. We have Nathan Haas, 5th in the GC in the Tour Down Under, and taking stage of the Herald Sun Tour as well, so going well, albeit in extremely different conditions to here. Mattia Bono of Lampre, good support rider, the 30-year-old. Took stage of the Tirreno Adriatico a few years ago now, in fact 7 years ago. Was going well at the time in Romandy, and of course popped back up again in the Enico in 2011. Jan Barter from Team Netta Endura, 29 years of age, a really good time trialist, 6th in the individual time trial on the Tour of Algarve, so a man who could set a pace that day, taken by Kwiatkowski, you may remember, who is an extraordinarily good time trialist. And Mark Demar from United Healthcare, San Luis, 7th in the GC this year, so he is a man on form in spite of his age of 30, which these days doesn't seem to be that old in the era of Horner and the like. So, what about the favourites today, and what they're going to be doing, and what are their teams mustering for? I guess just damage limitation at this point in time. You want to make sure that you're there, that you don't burn your resources out on a day such as this.
Notice a number of the Orica Green Edge riders have only got shorts on. That's actually one of the problems again in the rain, is that if you're not riding on the front of the bunch, or you're not riding in the breakaway, you're just not producing so much heat, and so trying to shelter inside the bunch and save energy actually means that you can get very, very cold as well.
Very cold indeed, and something you need to ward against. Team Netta Endura doing a good turn as well. Bartosz Zarski seems to have found himself a pair of tights that aren't available to his team. 82.6 kilometres to go, and you can see from the way the waves are just starting to address themselves to the coastline here. We do have something of a wind. He would have preferred more climbs, and I think once they stripped out the Mani and the Pompeiana, it really saw an end to Vincenzo Nibali's chances in this one.
Well, I think you could say that this race was quite literally made for him this year. I think the organisers almost adding that extra climb in with the hope that Vincenzo Nibali could take the first Italian win since 2006, I believe it was, when Pozzato took it. It had been Pataki the year before that. 5 winners actually of this race previously are here: Pozzato, Pataki, Ciolek, Cavendish, and one other.
Well, Nibali was on form, but form counts for very little when you've got these kinds of elements, and in fact a race that I guess he kind of had to turn up for. They couldn't really say, well, we take the mountains out, so you don't have to pop along anymore. So he's here, but probably Andrea Gardini is likely to be their sprint choice at the end of the day.
Nibali, incidentally, was one of the riders who pulled out due to the cold weather conditions last year, because we were expecting big things from him. So, as you said, Carlton, maybe he's someone that doesn't cope with the long races in the cold conditions. I'm not going to say he doesn't cope with the cold at all, because, of course, on the penultimate stage of last year's Giro, it was snowing up the mountain, and not only did he seal victory overall, he also won the stage. So
yeah, it looked a bit like a Yeti when he came towards us at the very end. Yeah, Sonny Colbrelli and Stefano Pirazzi, one of my favourites. Hard man always in the break, it seems, Pirazzi, but it's Nico Bohem from Bardiani that's up the road. Boca Mollema has been talked up by Belkin and a number of others, but they've got Lars Petter Nordhaug as well, as a second tier, I guess you might say, backup, but they've got Martin Cilingi in the break. Philippe Gilbert is here. It's almost odd that we're mentioning him so late down this list of glory, I guess, but the form of Philippe Gilbert is not quite what it was at the season ahead of his World Championship victory. Tor Ushoff, though, might be a good outsider, especially in this kind of weather. The great Tor, the Viking, can certainly cope with this kind of weather. This is probably Norwegian summer he's thinking about today.
I think you probably could say the same for Van Avermaet. Second place to Ian Stannard a couple of weeks ago at the Omloop Het Nieuwsblad. Perhaps it wasn't quite so cold as this, but I'm pretty sure it wouldn't have been far off up there in Belgium. In fact, he was a bit of a surprise second place because they were in a 2-up breakaway. Stannard, arguably the slower of the two when it comes to a sprint, but he launched things early and Van Avermaet unable to come around him at the line. So we've kind of really got a story of two types of teams here, haven't we? We've got the likes of BMC, we've got the likes of even Omega Pharma Quickstep and a few other teams like Orica Greenedge, who we've already mentioned, with cards to play. And then on the other hand, we've got the likes of Cannondale, Trek, Giant, Shimano, etc., who are putting all their eggs into one basket for Degenkolb, Cancellara and Sagan respectively.
Mark Demar, Grizzly, getting on with it, and Belkin's Martin Chilingi, 36 years of age, and thinking, is it time I got myself a proper job? Well, it's a proper day for the top end of cyclists, and he's giving a rueful, wry grin there, as you can see. Garmin Sharp, haven't mentioned them. Tom Jelte Schlachter did well on the Paris-Nice. Sebastian Lagerveld is a man who can press the go button when required. They've got Johan van Summeren as well. That's a tight outfit, Garmin. We have 5 riders left in a breakaway, which started off as 7. Went off at kilometre 4 and is only just reaching the business end of the day as we speak. We have the Capo Mele, we have the Capo Cervio, we have the Capo Berta, and they will be with us in around 12 kilometres time. So get your energy bars in, lads, because any moment now you're going to have to start working, and these are not insignificant tests.
No, not too bad, but yeah, coming at where they do in the race after so many kilometres in the legs, they're, you know, a tough prelude, I guess, to the main events, which are the Cipressa and the Poggio, which come a bit later on.
Our break is down to 4 riders. It's thinning down, and I'm not surprised at all today. Albania is where we are right now, and we will be climbing as we exit this one. With 53 kilometres to go, when you get that counter upon your screen, in about 10 k's time, then we start climbing once again after the respite along the coast here. It does rise and fall. It's nothing serious in terms of mountains, but it's a series of punches that come, and especially as the distance that they will have covered at the start of these climbs is what, over 230 kilometres, so very much a long regular stage day already on the saddle, and then all of a sudden they're expected to climb, and I think that's the factor, Dan. It may not be the inclines, it's just the where they come on the day.
I think over 200 riders have started this morning, and even when we say that it's finished in a sprint, like when Mark Cavendish won, Pataki, etc., it's still a group of only 30-35 riders, so of course 160 or so have been dropped on those climbs, and that's where the younger riders can really suffer on these long days. It does seem to take some time and maturity before you've got the endurance in general, I would say, to win a race like this, although you do of course get some anomalies, the likes of Tom Bonan when he was second, I believe, in Paris-Roubaix at just 21 years of age. And
61.3 kilometres to go. It's a beautiful part of the world, but it really doesn't feel like a holiday destination today, and it's certainly no holiday on the bikes, I might tell you. There you are, Gallinaro Island. Goodness me, it looks like Dr. Evil's lair. Well, he's called in the weather today, and he's absolutely right. Evil it most certainly is. This is what we are dealing with. The Milan San Remo is turning into a lake race as we perhaps speak. Just look at it. That's the commentary position right now. We have a breakaway which is starting to thin down, and the chase is on. We've been in the saddle for approaching 5.5 hours, and this is what is about to welcome them on the coast of the Mediterranean. It's not pleasant at all, and the cold is starting to bite not only into the breakers, but the chasers as well. And the pack is working for each other. Everyone wanting to take turns at getting some respite from the weather, and those that really are on the nose are receiving it smack in the face. The weather, that is. 4 men remaining in the breakaway. There were 7, and hardly surprising that this day has taken its toll not only on them, but on just about everybody. 60.7 kilometres of racing left of a total of 294. Nobody said the Milan San Remo was going to be easy. It's not meant to be, and today it is far from it. Well, the weather has been a major factor over the last couple of years, and the sunshine that started the day at the finish line is now very much a thing of the past. We've had claps of lightning, we've had hail, we've had snow, sleet, we've had every single season all rolled into one. So you can't predict the weather, and frankly you can't predict how today will pan out either. Last year in horrible conditions we got a surprise with Gerald Churlick. He's back. You never know, don't bet against him because he coped with the conditions previously. Can he possibly do it again? I guess we're going to find out, Dan.
Yeah, we certainly will. Some riders suffering towards the back of the bunch. BMC up there on the right-hand side with Philippe Gilbert. Mikhail Shah is in the Swiss champions rain cape. Nice to see a rain cape actually with some colour on it so that you can see exactly who it is. Plenty of black rain capes in the bunch there today, making it slightly harder to pick out the who's who in terms of the riders underneath. Of course, covering up their numbers as well with those jackets. We'll try and do our best to identify who's at the front and who's getting dropped as we come closer towards the finish line. And there's another one of those, I think, bum defenders, I saw them called, or something similar.
Sounds like a martial art of sorts. Or maybe somebody who's not very good at defending. I'm not sure. But anyway, Pim Lichtart is using one as we speak. 57.6 kilometres to go. You'll pardon our mirth, but honestly, it's batten down the hatches time today. It's war. The real battles haven't actually broken out yet because everyone's kind of working for themselves. They just want to get through this to the business end. The first of our little kick climbs has welcomed us. And in fact, our breakaway riders, the remnants of a 7-man breakaway, just 4 left in it, just starting to push away. Brett Lancaster checking him out at Orica Green Edge. And indeed, they've got lots of options here. Cy Clark, Darrell Impey, and of course Michael Matthews, who we believe is going to be amongst those bidding for a podium place. This is Mark Cavendish suffering today. This is slow motion of Mark Cavendish and his bottom lip trembling. It's not fear, it never is with Mark. It is sheer cold at the moment, and he's not the only one that's suffering. Look at how much gear has been worn today. And Andre Greipel, German champion, goes over to the right-hand side of the road. He looks comfy.
Yeah, you can see this is the point at the race that every team starts to get a little bit more nervous. Everyone starts coming up towards the front, and that's why it's the first that we've seen of some of the sprinting favourites, Mark Cavendish and Andre Greipel in their respective national champions colours, being protected by their teammates. Zeeberg was the big rider from Lotto Belisol, just in front of Greipel, and there we've got Jan Bakelants, also a last-minute replacement for Tom Bonan in this race today. Pataki not too far behind in the colours of Omega Pharma Quick Step. Meanwhile, here are the breakaway, still pressing on, still unfortunately don't have a time gap to these guys, but it will start to come down very, very quickly now that the speed's gone up in the bunch.
The speed has increased. They're starting to shed their warm weather gear. It's not because they're not cold, it's because they don't want the weight. Just heading underneath one of these water bridges which stops mountain melt from affecting the road. Well, it feels like the whole world is melting at the moment, not due to heat, but awash with rain. 47 or 48.7 kilometres to go, and in around 1,800 metres we go over the Capo Cervo. Then it is the Berta in about 7 kilometres time, and then we have some respite and expect some action, some fireworks in the lead to the Cipressa. I think somebody may well go long. We start the climb of the Cipressa at 28, so in 20 kilometres time, when that number top left-hand side of your screen says 28, you can expect somebody to reach out and go for this. You never know, it may well be that a couple of these breakaway riders still feel they've got something left, but to be honest, there's been so much protection going on within the pack today just to stay out of the weather that I think there may be fresher legs than perhaps we may have been predicting within the group, and it could well come down to a classic sprint. And if it does, Degenkolb will be there, Sagan will be there, Greipel will be there, Modolo, Cavendish, and possibly Michael Matthews as well. If it gets brutal, Fabien Cancellara could be one of those to put the hurt on early. I think Philippe Gilbert is going to try and go for a long one. It seems to be his only option at the moment, because the sheer strength that he can display in a pack seems to have diminished. We saw that earlier on in these early races in Italy. Just not happening for him on the Tirreno Adriatico. And Peter Sagan getting the better of him on one particular day off the final corner. Sagan is here. So's Arnaud Demer, another quick man. Tom Jelter-Schlechter is a real prize fighter as well. Goodness me, it's a hard one to call this. And I don't think anyone's going to truly know until we get to the line. So it means that Gilbert would have to go long. But don't forget, he's got the likes of Fabian Cancellara to contend with, and Peter Sagan, who's great at keepy-uppy. There is Andre Greipel with the German champions' rainbows across his chest. And of the quick men, and don't count this too seriously, but of the quick men, he looks the most comfortable. That said, he does have this death mask of a face when he's...
I think everybody has today.
I think they have. But on Andre Greipel, it looks normal. Bless him. When he takes the helmet off, by the way, he's a good-looking chap. But, yeah, Diano Marina is where we're heading. No chance for any sightseeing today. The only sight they've got is, well, eyes closed against the elements, I reckon. I know they're all wearing specs, but they are spattered, and some of them eschewing any eye protection. I've always wondered about that, because when you ride into the rain, particularly at pace, it does hurt the eyeballs, but some of them would just rather have better vision.
Well, it's a bit of a... You never know what to do when the conditions are like this. You can't see much without your glasses, because especially in the bunch, you've got the spray from the wheels in front of you. It's very hard to keep your eyes even open. And then, of course, when you've got your shades on, you've got all the raindrops on them, and it makes it hard to have a clear vision in front of you as well. But the majority of riders in the peloton still keeping their glasses on. You can get certain products which help to kind of wash away the raindrops a bit better than you would do if you just had a normal lens. But yeah, it does make things extra difficult. It all adds up when the conditions are like this. The cold, you have less momentum when you come around the corners as well, and it all adds to a much harder race.
We're in the business end of the day. We've crested the Mele, just dealing with the Cervo right now. We're on the downhill section with the run to the Capo Berta. No, of course, Mani or the Pompeiana this year. Drew the quick men, and there are fast men and their teams in the pack. What lays ahead? Well, with 28 kilometres to go, and we'll be there before you know it, particularly at this pace, we have the Cipressa, and that is where some of those who are going to play the long game today will have a go. Wouldn't be surprised if Cancellara goes long. Certainly Philippe Gilbert and Thor Hushovd are likely to go for it, but right now the pace is being kept up by Cannondale, and yet again Peter Sagan has sent his men to sacrifice themselves on the front just to add that pace and try and shell out and put some hurt on other quick men out there. The likes of Mark Cavendish, who is suffering in the cold. We've seen his jaw chattering with these appalling conditions. Andre Greipel looks solid. He's got a lot of Belisol team around him as well. Tony Galopin and Jürgen Rollins will be working well for him. It's pick-up time and go for it time. I think it will be a quick man today. The likes of Degenkolb, the likes of Matthews, Cavendish, Greipel, Demer, take your pick, but don't count out those who can roll from distance, like Peter Sagan, like Cancellara, like Philippe Gilbert, like Thor Hushovd. My goodness, it's a roll call of greats in this wet, wet day.
It's a little bit like that first day in the mountains of a Grand Tour, isn't it? When you're talking for weeks beforehand about who potentially could win the race overall. And on that first mountain stage, you start to see riders coming out the back, and that's the sort of thing that we're going to see when they come up towards the Cipressa. We're going to see, of course, who's at the front, but equally, when we get the motorbike towards the back of the group, we're going to see who hasn't got it on the day. And that's almost as interesting as anything else. And then, of course, once we get to the Poggio, that's when the fireworks will really start. And that's where we'll see the non-sprinters try to gap the other riders in the race.
4 minutes and 50, it's held station, you know, and these guys have done a fantastic job. Now, we are heading for the magic time with 28 to go, so in 12 kilometres time, thereabouts, we're going to be starting to climb the Cipressa, so I think we need to tee ourselves up as to exactly what we're going to deal with. Most of the day's lumps are now behind us, but the Cipressa and the Poggio still await.
Yeah, you can see on your graphic there, just about to go to the Capo Berta, another little prelude before we get to the last two main climbs of the day. And yeah, just to remind all of the viewers out there of what they're facing, these aren't mountains. They're not extremely long, they're not extremely steep, but coming where they do in the longest one-day race of the year, and the speed at which they're tackled is what makes them hard. The Cipressa itself, just over 5.5 kilometers long, 4.1% average. Oh, look at how close things are as they come up towards this crunch point. Nobody wanting to give an inch. And they're all trying to make their way and keep themselves into position to save energy and to make sure they're in the right place at the right time once they hit this Cipressa. Maximum gradient for that climb, 9%, which comes just after the halfway point. Starts dragging on towards the end of that, and then they've got a technical descent and another 9 kilometers of flat before they hit the Poggio. Max 8%, average 3.7%. For those of you who have just joined our coverage, a recent data suggesting that average speed up that for these riders on the best years is around about 37 kilometers per hour uphill. So they really do tackle this with some vengeance, and we're going to see that today.
We certainly are. Belkin have started to come to the front. Bolka Mollema can't be ruled out for them. Likewise, Lars Peder Nordhaug, don't forget. Also, Bardiani putting in some pace. Wait for Pirazzi to go for it from distance. He's the kind of suicide rider that lights up this kind of day. And Philippe Gilbert is in a decent place. I haven't seen Tor Ushov for a little while, but I believe he is also there from BMC. Gilbert certainly is, and he'll be having a go at it before you know it. I think the pace that's being put in right now by Peter Sagan's men is to try and nullify any kind of attempt to go early. But there's plenty of power here as Gilbert gets himself into position, and Ushov's very close by as well to go long, and Greg Van Avermaet is there. They've got a trio of greatness, BMC, and they're starting to think about this. Three men plying their trade and doing an amazing job of time trialling their way over this last little peak before the Cipressa and the Poggio climbs that will end this Milan-San Remo. And the end cannot come soon enough, and look at the pace that's being led here, imposed by Cannondale. 4 minutes is the gap now as we close in on the Cipressa and the Poggio. And the drama. We're going to have fireworks even on this damp day. And look at Katusha as well. They are wrestling for control at the front of the chase. And Alexander Kristoff and Luca Paolini are clearly up for this. There's Mark Cavendish and Peter Sagan not that far away either. Andre Greipel locked centre of proceedings likewise with his Lotto Belisol team. 3 minutes and 47, the latest transponder has just read through, and we're reading out the end for this man. It's a eulogy, I think you might say. It's a tough thing to be on a bike like this when you're suffering, and Jan Barter, believe me, is suffering. 39.5 to go. The Cipressa still to come, and the Poggio before the run into San Remo itself.
Well, that to me looks like a much thinned down peloton from the 200 or so who set out from Milan this morning. We saw Tinkoff Saxo coming towards the front. Daniela Bonatti, their number one for today, but they have got Roman Kreuziger as well. He might well be one of the riders to try and light things up on the Cipressa, which is coming soon. On the top of your screens, you can see one of the Garmin Sharp riders. One of the first times we've seen them at the front of this bunch, coming towards the most important point of the race. And at the back there, you can see the riders beginning to suffer as the road tilts upwards. Let's not forget this, by no means the hardest test that they're going to have to face in this final 40 kilometres of the race. But nonetheless, still going to take 3 or 4 minutes to get up this climb before they head back down towards sea level. And then the Cipressa to follow. Jan Bakelant's the last-minute replacement here for Omega Pharma Quick-Step at this race, doing a fantastic job keeping his team leader, Mark Cavendish, out of the wind. He's been there for some time now.
I'm struggling to find Andre Greipel within this pack as we speak, and I'm just wondering whether he's... oh, there he is. He's changed his rain cape. He's gone dark. And you see him dead centre of your screen right now. He's got German champion stripes upon his helmet. So Andre Greipel is there, and in fact he's shoulder to shoulder with Mark Cavendish as we speak. Wow, 3 minutes and 19 now with 39 to go. It's all over for the break, you can be sure of that, because there's too much power here, Dan.
Yeah, it's coming down very quickly, and Cannondale starting to take more of a back seat again. It's the Katusha boys who are on the front. And as you said, Carlos, I don't think they're too concerned with this break managing to stay away for victory today. They just want to put the hurt on Cavendish, Greipel, even the likes of Degenkolb. But Degenkolb has been climbing extremely well. Here's Cancellara just propping his glasses up order to be able to see a little bit better. Everyone in the concentration mode now. Cavendish, to me, not looking too bad at all.
No,
I'll probably
not
say
at
that
all.
we'll watch him drift backwards now, but he's certainly concentrated. He's been towards the front of that bunch for a good 15-20 minutes now.
It's remarkable. We've done over 260 kilometres. It just feels like a whole load of hurt. Over 250, I beg your pardon. But there we are, maths failing me. One man who's done his calculations is Fabian Cancellara. The glasses are coming back down, are they? Not quite, not just yet. And badged up as Nibali. I can't see him at the moment, but I suspect he may well be in here as well. Movistar are looking very lively. They've got a lot of manpower here as well, and there is Vincenzo Nibali just over towards the barriers and hiding alongside Mark Cavendish as we speak. So we've got some great names up towards the fore. Gilbert, Uzoft, Cancellara, I think, have got ambitions of going long. If it comes down to a straight sprint, they're going to have to hand over, I think, the glory to the likes of Degenkolb, Damas, Sagan, Matthews, Cavendish and Greipel.
That, to me, looked like Geraint Thomas slowly sliding out the back of that group. Have to get confirmation on that, but very much the British man's style. And that looks like it could be day over already for him, suffering the effects of a crash in Paris-Nice. He was right up there in the overall classification, and this small climb really started to show how tired some of these guys are. I think we're going to have around about 80 or 90 guys left as we go over the top. Some small groups forming behind, and they'll be going straight to San Remo without going over the Cipressa or the Poggio.
Only 3 men left in this break, but 2 minutes and 49 with 31.8 to go. And they'll be hitting the climb before you know it. Let's hope nobody hits the deck. It's looking very wobbly out there, but Gilbert is still very much to the fore. Well, battle plans for those who are going to go long, Dan, are going to have to be revealed fairly shortly.
Yeah, and interesting that it's Katusha who are one of the teams making that pace extra high at the moment. Here we go then, more live pictures from the Androni Cup. Kenny Van Hummel is the sprinter there that looks like he must have been dropped. Recent winner of a stage in Langkawi. I said to you before the start of the day, Carlton, I didn't think he'd be there amongst the sprinters that were vying for it towards the end. But yeah, going back to Katusha, they've got one of the outsiders here in the form of Christoph, Norwegian, who may well have a chance if he can get over the climbs, but you would think that if it was him they were riding for, unless he's feeling amazingly good, they wouldn't be pressing on. I'm wondering whether it's Paolini that is the person that's decided that he's feeling the best today. You pointed out there, Carlton, Norwegian champion Tor Ushoft, one of your picks for today. He's come third in this race before. In fact, he's been up there in the top 10 a number of times. Hasn't shown that kind of form over the last 3 or 4 years, but certainly, again, not somebody that dislikes the cold weather. He's used to it from growing up in Norway and seems to deal well with those conditions. We've seen that plenty of times in the past. And in fact, he's sat around about 7th or 8th position at the moment. And what a surprise it would be if he crossed the line first today.
It would be fabulous. He's got Philippe Gilbert just ahead of him, and in fact he's got a brace of outriders, I think you might say, including Greg Van Avermaet, I believe, just there as well, bedded in. Still haven't got a positive view of Peter Sagan, but his team would not be burying themselves such as this, despite the fact they've got Oscar Gatto and Marco Mercato. We'll get that, I'm sure, in just a few moments' time. Everyone is rain-caked up, and it is a difficult job if you're one of the camera bikes, actually, to pick out the great, the good. Great effort, though, no doubt about it, by these guys. We still have a trio up the road. They've still got 2.5 minutes with 30 to go.
Yeah, Martin Cialenghi is the Belkin rider in the green coming towards the front now. We've got Bono there as well, the Lampre rider. Great job he's done for his team. That has meant they haven't had to do any chasing behind. Ulisi, let's not forget, is one of those who has retired. And the third person in that breakaway is Demar from the United Healthcare team. Doing a fantastic job of showing his sponsors off in their first participation at this race. And the kilometres clicking down now before we reach the real crunch point of the Milan-San Remo.
Got to tell you something, Tor Ushoft looks like the protected rider amongst this group of BMC riders. If the pace is too high for Philippe Gilbert to reach out and go for it, it will be Tor that is teed up for the line. Now, if it gets brutal, he's a big man. He's not quite as quick as he used to be, and certainly not against the likes of Cavendish, Michael Matthews or Degenkolb. And here comes Sagan, just on the left-hand side of your screen, and reeled into position absolutely perfectly.
Yeah, here comes Sagan with 1, 2, 3, 4 of his teammates. Very obvious there in the lime green Cannondale colours. Makato, I believe, will be one of the last men to help him on the climbs when we come in towards the finish. Hadn't seen him for some while. He was obviously biding his time a little bit further back in the bunch. We can also see a number of Sky riders up there as well. Edvald Bursenhagen should be their leader now for today's race, and that group has whittled down enormously. I reckon there's about 80 or 90 riders left here now. On the right-hand side, you can see Garmin Sharp. That's, to me, looks like Sebastian Langevel, the Dutchman, who's up there. Haven't seen too much with my other outsider of the day, Slagter, so far.
Henrik Greipel is by the wall. There he is, and the big brute of a man. He's actually got a warm jacket on, as you can see. It's not a rain jacket. He's just trying to keep some core body warmth within the place it should be, in the torso. These guys up front, Chilingi, Demar and Bono, they have 2 minutes and 22, and they are just about to hit the Cipressa. Now, this is the penultimate climb of the day. It comes with 28 to go, so they're just about to get onto it as we speak. It's really a platform, a launch pad, if you like, for those who are hoping to post a break, a sudden attack, if you like. Well, it looks like the pace of the chases is going to nullify that, and it may well come down to just the last roll of the dice off the Poggio and that run into town. It looks like it's going to be one for the quick men, but this story is just about to be told right now. Finally, we get to the Cipressa with only the Poggio to come, and then that run to the line.
One team we haven't seen too much of over the last number of kilometres, the Orica Green Edge team. Our Australian squad were very prominent towards the front when we first got our live TV pictures. Did see Simon Clark a number of kilometres ago, but certainly don't seem to have strength in numbers just at the moment. Might be that they're hovering back there in the bunch at some point.
Well, I've got to say that Martin Chilingi looks like he's looking for support as we speak. And just looking through this pack here, Lloyd Mondery is there for AG2R. He took that crash in the corner, you may remember. He won't be wanting to repeat that on the Tirreno Adriatico, but he was looking very handy as a breaker, and so it might well be he that decides to have a go early on these last two climbs. The Cipressa announces itself. Suddenly the road kicks up, and it's time to go for it if you're not one of the quickest out there, but you've got some strength left after what has been a very difficult day weather-wise.
Certainly has. So of course, we've got 2 minutes now before the main peloton, and what's left of it reach this climb. Already Chilingi showing himself to be the strongest of the remaining three here. Bono slipping back, Demar having to come across to the Dutchman. Could be day over for the Italian in this breakaway. Bono there in the pink colours of the Lampre Merida team. He'll be pleased to have got to the foot of the Cipressa here before the bunch caught him, but he's going to be dropping back fairly quickly looking at that.
Oh
there.
My goodness, look at the pace, and I think that's a man who believes he's done enough today, at least in terms of his input, and he's done a great job for the sponsors. It leaves just 2 riders remaining, and look at the charge, and it's Laura Belisol that come up right now. Mark Cavendish is also there to the left-hand side of your screen, so right-hand side of the road is being pushed towards the wall. It's a battle for safety and position. Sagan is here. So is Cancellara, so is Tor Usoft. He's still got the black rain cape on, but he's got 4 BMC riders about him, including Gilbert. But I think Gilbert's going to be pacing Usoft for the drive for the line today. But he's got his work cut out because Greipel is here, Cavendish is here. Oh, this is going to be a joy at the end.
Well, you say Greipel is here. He's got 3 of his teammates on the front. I actually couldn't pick out the big German. Ben Swift is still here from Team Sky. It's very obvious to pick out Simon Giekscher from Giant Shimano, the bearded rider. I can't see last year's winner Cierlek. I can see his teammate Konovalovas in this group, the MTN rider. But I can't see the rider with the number 1 on his back.
Greipel is not wearing, or not visible, his German champion's jersey, but he's got a what looks like a sponge warm top on there, and he's going to need it, and it'll be warming the cockles of his team's heart if he manages to bring this one home today. They'll forget about the cold, the wet, the pain, the endurance, the sheer distance that they had to contend with if they get victory today. And Lotto Belisol clearly look well up for this. Greipel's in a great spot, so is Sagan, so is Cavendish. Haven't seen Orica Green Edge for some time.
Good job, Koen de Kort there, the Dutchman from Giant Shimano, leading his teammates and leaders at just the right time. And as I said, that Cannondale goes to the front with Demarchi and Sagan right on the wheel. And this is the point where they want to make it hard.
He's called for it. Come on, let's do this together. I've got the legs to go long. It's been protecting not hiding, you understand, but protecting himself all day. And that's the moment he called for it. He hit the go button and said, come on, I'm on your wheel, do this for me, and I'll do it myself when we get over the Poggio.
Now we're going to see who's got the legs in this race. Van Avermaet from BMC is there. Ciolek is there on the left-hand side of our screen.
Wow.
In the yellow helmet, we've also got Ben Swift. A slight surprise to me to see the British rider up there. Normally, I would say perfectly suited to a race like this, but just hasn't quite shown the form since an injury struck 2013. Strung right out now. Cavendish around about 20th wheel, still up there, but no teammates around him. And here we go, the gaps are starting to...
You've got a clock on the giant rider who's just bedded in there. Searching for John Degenkolb.
He's there, 4th place.
There he is. Big of thigh and of great ambition as well. He climbed well in Paris-Nice, and it looks like he's climbing extremely well right here, right now, and that does not bode well for those around him. Then again, how can you call a day such as this? You can call it hell, call it what you like, but it's certainly entertaining. 24.4 kilometres to go, 48 seconds Nibali now to the brace of riders who remain up the road from that breakaway of 7. Goodness me, Dan. We have, 2.4 kilometres to go before we crest the Cipressa. It was never a massive challenge on paper, the Cipressa, but the way it arrives and puts the hurt on at the end of such a long day, it really does have a massive impact, and you're seeing it right now.
Yeah, we are seeing it on screens. There is Andre Greipel just clinging on towards the back of this group. Mark Cavendish is looking incredible right up there towards the front, as he has been for the last 20 or so kilometres, and it's really whittled down here. Here's Paolini. There's only about 30 riders left, I'd say, in this group, and there's team cars sat in between them and whoever remains behind, so we can only presume that the gap must be fairly significant now. That's
Johan Alfredo as well, one of the attackers from Francis de Gea, and a big exhalation from Nibali. This race was not supposed to suit Vincenzo, and I suspect it possibly won't suit him, even though he is chasing down this trio of breakaway riders. 23.8, they've just got 1 kilometre to go now before they'll be over the top. 2, I beg your pardon, before they start their descent. And there is Vincenzo. It's a brave effort, though, nonetheless, Dan, but I think it's doomed to failure, mainly because of what's chasing him down at the moment.
Well, he's got 25 seconds now on this bunch, which is still being led by the Cannondale squad. They have got one further teammate a little bit further down who looks like he's being saved for the Poggio. The thing for Nibali is that he hasn't got anybody with him. Let's not forget there's 9 kilometres between the foot of the descent of the Cipressa and the beginning of the climb of the Poggio. But let's not also forget that he's one of the best descenders in the peloton, particularly in these wet conditions, so he might well gain some time if he's still free over the top of this climb.
Well, there's all hell going to break loose on the Poggio, clearly, because I think it's going to have to be attacked. And there's no hiding place. Greipel has just relayed himself back on. He's back with his teammates, by the way. He's made his way through the group. But his performance on the Cipressa doesn't bode well for the Poggio.
No, we're going to get some footage soon of what's left of that group as we go through the town here.
2 breakaway riders remain from the 7 with 23.3 kilometres to go. They're going to get some respite, but I'm afraid their day is done. Vincenzo Nibali has decided to go long, very long indeed, on the foothills of the Cipressa, the penultimate climb of the day. And look at the response from the crowd as the rain abates at the finish line. There's a whole load of hurt out there, and some very quick guys are starting to be found out, I'm afraid. Andre Greipel has made his way back into the pack, but only just. He's holding on, and it doesn't look great for him for the Poggio, which is still to come, the last climb of the day. He's been found out perhaps on the Cipressa. We'll see how protected he manages to be over the Poggio, which comes the climb of that with 10 to go. It crests the peak of it with 7 to go, so there's not much time to catch back up if you have been lost on that climb. This is Nibali, 16 seconds he's got, and he's holding a distance on the pack.
Well, 16 seconds behind what's left of the early breakaway, but he is extending that time gap over this group. It's now up to, well, it was close to 30 seconds, around about 25 according to the graphics on the screen there. So this group of, what, about 30? Salvatore Puccio, another one of the riders who I just about managed to pick out when we were on the back a few moments ago. Mark Cavendish is still in there, Andre Greipel. So we've got the 3 main sprinters, along with John Degenkolb of Giant Shimano, Peter Sagan, of course, also there, right up towards the front behind his teammates. So 4 very, very quick men. Who's going to be left to attack on the Poggio now that Nibali's gone on Cipressa?
Well, do you want to? Has it nullified some of the strategy for some of the guys who would have attacked? 22.2 remaining. In 400 metres, they will start heading downhill. And Nibali is on their case, 14 seconds. And listen to the crowds as well, just calling out his name. As soon as they see him in the light blue of Astana, they scream, they can't believe he's here. Well, he is, and these guys must surely know he's there. 13 seconds is all they've got over Nibali, and they have 39 seconds over a pack of pace men.
Yeah, pretty much everybody in the race today, all of the riders will be linked up via race radio to their team cars behind. So they'll know what's happening roughly in the race. The 2 guys in the front will know that Vincenzo Nibali is beginning to come across to them. It'll be interesting to see just how many risks this Italian rider takes coming down this descent. As I said, he's known for his descending skills and wasn't afraid of pushing it at last year's Giro d'Italia. In fact, he lost his wheels from underneath him on one of the descents coming in towards the finish on the day, in fact, that the man last in this bunch here, Adam Hansen, won the stage.
Finally some respite then. They come down off the Cipressa. Nibali is an ultimate descender, and look at this. He's already winding in, closing that gap. He's a brave man, and he is supremely skilled at this sort of thing. Now, if he is taking it easy in these kind of corners, you know it is an absolute nightmare out there. This looks like a newly laid road surface, and if that's the case, then the water will sit upon the oils which seep out from that tarmac and just cause an extra little bit of an element of fear amongst the riders. Look how slowly they're taking this.
Yeah, and it's going to put the hurt on the people at the back here when they come towards the flat section and the first rider sprints out. He might be a small group now of only around 30 guys, but it's still going to be hard and fast at the back. It looks to me like it's Adam Hansen who's the guy there. Not sure if he's lost his race number or whether he was, in terms of on his bike, or whether he was forced to change to his spare bike at some point. Also got Pozzato there from Lampre. A couple of the giant Shimano riders. I'm trying to get a name and count on a few of the teams here because that's going to be an important factor as they come towards the section between the 2 climbs. Who's going to do the chasing? We saw that there were 2 riders, and 2 teammates, should I say, of Peter Sagan still in the group. We've got a couple of Trek riders who might work for Fabian Cancellara. We've got some Omega Pharma quick-step riders, but I think they're going to try and save themselves to stay with Cavendish on the Poggio itself, and likewise, I think, for Lotto Belisol, for Greipel.
There's your 2 breakaway riders that remain. There is Vincenzo Nibali chasing them down. There is the main peloton and those that are suffering at the back of it. We've shelled out all bar around 35 riders as we speak, as we reach the end of this Milan-San Remo. 105th running of the race, and running brilliant at the moment is Nibali. He's going to sail straight by these guys. Look at this, he's barely pedaling at all. He knows the lines and he can take every single one of them, powers out of it and says, see you guys, this is my party and you're not invited.
Well, they're going to do their utmost to try and stick with the Italian, but he is known for his descending, and already a gap has opened up. You don't want to be pushed too far and over your limits, because the last thing you want is to end up hitting one of these barriers or a wall on the other side. And Nibali taking 14 seconds back on these 2 in very quick, well, very small number of kilometres, and already, what's that gap? 5-6 seconds. So what's the gap between he and the bunch behind?
Did you see that? The 2 now pursuing breakaway riders, formerly of the break, almost tangling, getting into each other, couldn't decide on the lines through the corner, and just look at the way Nibali is going away with this. 19.2 kilometres remaining, and he is our leader. And as the camera spins round trying to pick out those who are chasing down, there's Nibali. He has left them all. Has he got the strength to go all the way? They took the mountains away. Can anybody take potentially the win away from this man? This is incredible.
Well, we wrote off Nibali's chances really at the start of today, saying that the cold conditions perhaps wouldn't suit him, given that he pulled out of last year's race. He's got the aid of the motorbikes at the moment, that's for sure. They're keeping him out of the wind, something a few of the pro riders are starting to make remarks about. I think his chances very much depend on how organised this group get when they reach the next long flat section. It's 9 kilometres. If they start to dilly-dally about and look at each other and that gap goes up towards the minute mark, Well, and he could have a very, very good chance of becoming the first Italian winner of this race since 2006.
Wow, can you imagine Nibali Supreme without the mountains, with all these fast men around? We've just seen John Degenkolb just starting to reach out for this. He's the man that's part of the leading chase right now, and Sagan looks like he's eased off ever so slightly. This is Nibali in time trialling mode at the moment. He's got his arms crossed upon his crossbars, and he's looking down. He's looking underneath himself, wondering, dare I look back, he's saying to himself. 17.9 to go. Yeah, Mark Cavendish embedded in as well, as you saw a few moments ago, is the glowing cheeks of Andre Greipel. He's got teammates and firepower around him. Does Sagan need firepower? He relies on himself a lot. So does this man. And Nibali's had no teamwork help at all today. He's played a clever game, and I guess this was his only option. Go for it on the Cipressa, hope everyone else looks at each other. That's what they did, and it's 43 seconds he's got at the moment. Now, in 3.7, he starts the climb of the Poggio. You know he can climb, you know he can descend. He's a brave man as well, and on wet surfaces, he might go just a little bit quicker than any of the fast men behind him. And then he's got the none too small matter of hanging on for 2.9 kilometres off the foot of the Poggio until he makes the line. Can he possibly do it?
He's certainly holding the gap at the moment. It remains to be seen if his legs are going to tie up once he reaches the Poggio. We've got two teams, or what's left of them, working on the front. Trek Factory Racing for Fabian Cancellara, and Cannondale for his arch enemy, Peter Sagan. They're both, of course, in this group. Katusha have got two riders, not aiding the chase, though, at the moment. One of those, to me, looks to be Christoph. We've also got two riders here from the Lamprey squad. Number 175, is that one of the guys that was remaining from, sorry, not 175, the number 5 from Lamprey. We've got Pozzato in there as well. Greipel's now towards the back. Two riders from Tinkoff Saxo, and that's one of the things which is really playing into the hands of Nibali now. Nobody has got huge numbers in what remains of that group.
Well, I think Andre Greipel is probably the man with the luxury of having teammates around him. He's got two, I think possibly three about him. John Degenkolb is on his own. Mark Cavendish doesn't look like he's got a whole load of backup here either. Peter Sagan, well, he shelled out his team, have put the hurt on, so he is alone as well. Goodness me, you need friends in a situation such as this, not enemies, but enemies is all you've got when there's the title up for grabs, and the 105th Milan-San Remo is drawing to a close, and right now Vincenzo Nibali is out front and he's got 33 seconds on the pack. Can he? Will he? Sky are determined that that shouldn't happen. That's a fairy tale that they don't want to have a happy ending as far as he's concerned. They've got Edvald Bosenhagen who's being teed up here. Ben Swift is doing an amazing job.
Bosenhagen's now dropped down to around about 7th position. On his wheel is Ciolek. Will we see the two Sky riders working on this climb and really putting themselves on the line for their Norwegian captain? I think they're going to have to do it if they want any chance of the win today, because that gap is not insignificant by any means. Latest that we had was 38 seconds on our information screens, and he's not showing any signs of tiring at the moment, is Vincenzo Nibali.
Vincenzo Nibali has 2 kilometres before he starts the climb of the very last test of the day before the line. The Poggio di San Remo awaits. If he skips up that, and he's capable of doing it, he can descend brilliantly. We know that. Question is, will he? Lotto Belisol have got a couple of riders there. We're waiting to see if, possibly, Andre Greipel can recover. He's been in all kinds of torment behind. Greg Van Avermaet is here, I believe Philippe Gilbert as well, and it's still reorganisation time. There, sort of dead centre of your screens with Mark Cavendish is Peter Sagan, and we have Degenkolb as well within this group. My goodness, we're going to find out how this one is going to be told finally, but still, with 11.3 to go, we have no idea who is going to win this one.
Salvatore Puccio, the Italian rider it is from Team Sky, on the front of this bunch. Great ride from him, still a young rider. He got the pink jersey on the island of Ischia last year after their win in the team time trial. Great to see a young guy like Puccio putting himself on the line for his teammates. Must be so tempting to ride for yourself if you're feeling good, and he must be feeling good to have made that group of 30 now. He wants to try and go for the win here with Edvald Bosenhagen. Talked up for so many years as a hot prospect for the future. Just slightly failed, really, to live up to the expectations despite some big wins in the likes of Gent Wevelgem. 3rd place in Het Nieuwsblad a few weeks ago. Can he get the big one here today?
Right now it's about Sky, it's about Lotto Belisol, and it's about, of course, the single remaining quick men who don't have teammates around them. Mark Cavendish does have the luxury of a couple by him, but it looks like he may have to do this on his own. He may well hook on to the train that is Lotto Belisol. Now, they have indeed got 3 riders plus Greipel. He's still here. He suffered on the Cipressa. Will he get over the Poggio? It's a lesser climb. It maxes at 8%. But the pace will be high, you know that. It has to be, because Nibali's up the road. He's got a gap of 21.
Here comes Pizzato towards the front, bringing up one of his teammates. And in fact, Modolo is still in this group. Another one of the quick men to remain here. Here comes Trek Factory Racing. Gilbert is still up there as well. One of the hilly classics that he hasn't got in his Palmares so far, of course. He's won Amstel Gold, he's won Liège-Bastogne-Liège, he's won Flèche-Wallonne. He's been up there in this race. He's never crossed the line first. Bernardi there as well. Adam Hansen now coming towards the front. Are they all working for Greipel still, or is it Roylands that's here that's feeling good?
Well, it's still Greipel. His champion's jersey is now on display, and they're putting some pace into this. He's hiding, he's waiting. There he is by the wall. That's the German champion's jersey. Mark Cavendish is 2 or 3 riders behind him. He, unfortunately, has got Čolek up ahead of him at the moment. And bedded dead centre of that Viper's head, if you like, is Sagan. The road kicks up, and Nibali has now got to drive into this. He's only got 13 seconds. I don't think he can do this.
No, it's looking doubtable now, isn't it? 13 seconds, not a very big gap, and it came plunging down very quickly once we saw Sky and then Lotto coming up towards the front, using up their last matches, the domestiques, the helpers in those teams, to try and get this guy back. Haven't quite made it yet, but now we see Trek Factory Racing come towards the front. Who's going to be the first to show their hands on this last climb of the day?
Well, Lotto Belisol have got manpower in abundance, and Greipel looks like he's refound his legs. But look how fresh Sagan looks in the lime green over towards the wall. And look how twitchy Čolek looks as well. He's happy to be here, and he's here by right. He wears number 1. He's the defending champion, don't forget. And it looks like it's all over for Vincenzo Nibali. He's not going to have the pace to get away from these guys. So, mob-handed, they arrive. And what talent we've got.
What a chance for the sprinters in this race now. Greipel has never been in this position before. Cavendish, of course, winner in 2009. It could be their last chance to win this race if the organisers continue to try and make it harder with the Pompeiana climb next year. So they've got to make the most of this opportunity. They're all done fantastic rides so far, and the first of the attacks comes from Trek Factory Racing. Is that Fabian Cancellara? No, to me it looks like Gregory Rast.
I think Bokka Mollema is also getting into position here from Belkin Pro Cycling. Oh, and it is. It's going to be a long one, but 9 to go. Is it too long?
Gregory Rast comes up onto the wheel of Vincenzo Nibali and straight past the Italian. Day over for Nibali, but what a fantastic attack by him. Lit the race up on the Cipressa. Gregory Rast providing now a launch pad, you think, for Fabian Cancellara to come across to.
Well, if Cancellara can bridge to him, then all hell is going to break loose, because the quick men don't want to go too soon. And it looks like it's Sagan that's going to form the chase right now. Look at the dark clouds, and it's storm clouds gathering for everybody. And right now it's a man in black, Rast, that's gone. And I believe that chasing him down, is it? Or is it one of the Belkin boys? Bardiani boys? Bardiani boys, yeah, beg your pardon.
Either that or it's one of Sagan's domestiques in the Cannondale squad. I think that might be one of the guys from Bardiani. Doesn't look to be the style of Pirazzi. They've got a number of decent riders in this race.
Colbrelli, perhaps. Let's have a look. 8.6 to go. Well, everyone is taking their chance right now, as the sprinters want to keep something in their legs for this final descent, and indeed the drive for the line. Oh my goodness, what a push this is. 8.4 to go, and we're seeing rolling attacks constantly, again and again. Bataglin, my goodness, on the Poggio, he's going to crest. Oh, and he gets it wrong. He gets it wrong, led astray by the motorcycle, I believe. Oh my goodness, I'm not surprised to see the fatigue coming in, and that is Greipel that's just coming around the headland at the moment as well. On the chase, 8.3 to go. They'll crest in 1,200 metres.
These are not 2 riders that I was expected to see up the road with 8.2 Ks to go. Bataglin, stage winner of the Giro d'Italia last year, hasn't shown that form at all so far in 2014. Not like his teammates Colbrelli. I would have been more expecting to see Colbrelli come up the road. Well, they crest this climb, let's not forget. around about 6, just over kilometres to go. So only 2 Ks now before they get to the top. And day over for Vincenzo Nibali, straight out the back of that group.
Well, that was a brave one by Vincenzo Nibali. He rode like a champion in waiting, but it just didn't quite happen for him. He went on the Chiquipesa and he was found out, I'm afraid. And there is the pack in front of him right now, and it's got some very, very talented guys. Enrico Battaglin, off form of late. Well, he's found it at exactly the right time, perhaps. 7.8 to go. I still think this is going to be about the quick men. Quicker than Rast and quicker than Battaglin. And they are chasing them down. And here comes Sky. Oh, and significantly, here comes Arnaud Demare for Francis Jeux. In fact, it's not.
I think it's Offredo in second position there. 2 Sky riders up there helping the team leader of that team, Edvald Boasson Hagen.
0.8 to go, and they're strung out all the way down the road. This is the front of the race, and we already have almost completed, what, 290 kilometres. We will have reached that marker in 1,500 metres time, and then there is still that desperate drive for the line to come. Now, everybody stay safe, get something back in your legs, and leave yourself some room for manoeuvre late on. Cholik's here, Sagan's here. So is Mark Cavendish, and Greipel's just relaying back on as we speak.
The smallest of margins between these 2 riders, and Daniele Benati in the yellow of Tinkoff Saxo in 3rd place. Langeveld from Garmin Sharp is right up there as well. He's still got one of the Bardiani riders. Is that Battaglin or is that one of his teammates? Oh, look, there is Borka Mollema. I think these guys are just towards the back of the group now. Here's the front again. That junction looks like it's just about to be made. Who's willing to take the most risks on this descent? Let's not forget 2.85 kilometres of flat road is what's going to remain between them and the finish line once they finish descending the Poggio.
The danger is that everybody plays cat and mouse, and you're going to allow the likes of Andrea Greipel's team to reassemble itself. And I think that some of these guys just want to keep the hurt going right now. They've got no option. They just have to do so, because if they ease up, then they're not going to have a chance of doing it alone, and they're going to go into the clutches of the teams that can reassemble themselves and light up the fast men. 4.5 to go. They're hugging the wall. They can go around here quicker than a motorcycle. He needs to get out of the way here as quickly as possible. They're catching the camera bike.
Well, the thing is, they've got some sprinters left here, but they haven't got many teammates left. You can see the distance. Greipel just going through the top of your screens there hasn't quite managed to make his way back onto the coattails of what's left of this group. Around about 20 riders here. Still got Ben Swift in this group as well. Can the British rider pull off the biggest win of his career, or is he working for Boasson Hagen? There's so many cards to play still in this group. That's what makes this race so fantastic. 6 hours and 50 minutes in the saddle. Still anything can happen.
Anything can happen in the Milan San Remo, and it's been proven today. We've had all kinds of weather, we've had all kinds of options, and right now we are waiting for a grand finale, a run for the line, and somebody is going to be braver than everybody else. Well, maybe it's not just about bravery, it's about what resources you have left. Well, we're going to find out in 3.7 kilometres, and still the pace is at its absolute punishing highest.
800 metres of descending to go now. It's Lars Petter Nordhaug, the Norwegian. A fantastic ride from him. Wasn't expecting to be here right at the finish of this race. He's really pressed on down this descent, but as you can see, more and more riders beginning to come back. Steve Art is there as well. From that brief overhead shot, it looked... Oh, there's small gaps everywhere. Oh, here goes Van Avermaet.
Van Avermaet kicks off as right-hand side of your screen. You're going to see what is waiting for them. Final little right-hander, a lazy one coming in just a few moments' time. But that's in those pictures of the final kilometre, which has been shown to you on the right-hand side of the screen. Van Avermaet just takes over the pacing, essentially. He's doing it for the guys who can go long. He doesn't want to be involved in a sprint.
You can see the corners that they face towards the end. Positioning going to be crucial as they come into the last 2 Ks. I'm expecting to see plenty of attacks between now and then, because of course we've got plenty of people here that can't count themselves amongst the fastest of the remainder of this group.
Well, Ben Swift has got an amazing chance to go for this. Suddenly another
Looks
attack.
like Colbrelli.
And Colbrelli it is, and he's got a teammate with him, I believe. Oh my goodness, look at this. What is the response from those around him? Oh, Gilbert has a look over the shoulder and says, come on, for goodness sake, pick it up. Van Avermaet just back in. Oh my goodness, 2.4 to go, and they're hitting it very long, and suddenly Garmin Sharp lighted up.
Langeveld, the guy trying to come across to Colbrelli. Colbrelli has never taken a professional victory. He's been in the top 10 top 5 about 10 times this year. He's got to keep his head down and keep going. If they stall behind, he has got a chance, but he can't keep looking back. Which team has got riders to support leaders to chase this man down? 2.1 Ks to go.
It is an enormous question. Who is left? It's been a battle of attrition, and I guess we're going to find out right now. Is Pippo Pozzato made it over towards the front? 1.9 to go. Sagan's very much there. Oh, look at this. As they wind back, so is Churlick. Sagan just over towards the barriers. There's Churlick.
Omega Pharma on the front, and that can only mean one thing. Mark Cavendish is in this group. I didn't expect that this morning. He's sat there next to Bernati.
And he's got Degenkolb right next to him as well. And Degenkolb, the looming figure. Oh, likewise. But now there's Greipel. It looks like he's struggling. He's turning squares at the moment with 1,600 metres to go. It's all over for him, I think. Where is Cavendish? He's in a great position. He just eases up. Oh my
goodness.
Here's
those corners we were talking about. We've got a left-hand turn and a couple of rights. We've got Katusha on the front. That is Christoph, I believe, in second position. Where's Mark Cavendish? Greipel struggling on the back.
Cavendish in a line, a trio of talent over to the right-hand side of the road, but Katusha still perhaps have this. And of course, Cancellara is also here with a teammate, don't forget. My goodness, what a finale. 1,100 metres to go and still nobody's reaching out. Now traditionally, Sagan goes long. Who will he take with him? And will he roll the dice too early? Here we go. Flamme Rouge arriving right now.
The next hugely important part of this race, 600 metres to go. They'll make a left turn, then a big swing around to the right. Who's going to have the legs of the sprint in the end? It's a different sprint at the end of 300 kilometres.
Well, what and who and why and when and how. There's Cancellara, there is Sagan, there is Churlick, oh, and there's Cavendish as well, and Greipel right towards the back, but it's too late for Greipel. Oh, and there is Philippe Gilbert over towards the barriers as well. They turn in, they take this long and lazy, and suddenly somebody has got to light this one up. Who's it going to be?
Cavendish in about 12th position on the wheel of Navadauskas from...
Oh, we've had a crash within the pack, just behind. A big check over the shoulders. Everybody's just wondering how they're going to go for this one. Oh, Greipel's nowhere to be seen, but there is Cavendish.
On the wheel of Modolo. Modolo is there as well. He's got a teammate. Who's going to lead out who? Van Avermaet goes on the left-hand side of the road. Modolo comes on the right. Cavendish launches his sprint.
Oh, over to the right side of the car. Oh, it's Cavendish in the white. Sagan's trying to trace him. Oh, it's a great wheel to pick. Cavendish is the front right now. Dead centre of your screen. Oh, my goodness. Cavendish moves to the centre. It is Christoph that's going to get this one. Christoph demolishes the field. Unbelievable stuff. How brave was that so late on? My goodness, what a race and what a winner. He's a big man and he's head and shoulders above everybody else. Alexander Christoph, he just hit the afterburners at precisely the right moment. He lost everybody and the drive for the line. He has made it happen and he's done it for Norway. My. Well, it had to be a Viking on a day such as this, did it not? We suspected it might be Thor Hushovd. We thought maybe Edvald Bosenhagen, but in the end, the man who stayed upright and delivered was Alexander Christoph. Katusha had done so much work. Both he and Luca Paolini had been busy. Philippe Gilbert looked over his shoulders on the barriers. He was looking for help. He was looking for danger, I guess. Well, the danger had been nullified on those climbs. Nibali had played his part, and when they went long, it was BMC that reached out with Van Avermaet. It wasn't going to be, though. It opened up dead centre. Mark Cavendish, his legs were found wanting. Thought at this point he was going to get it. Oh, my goodness. The man who had the best of the legs was Alexander Christoph, and in the end, he won by more than a bike length. Look at that for talent. Christoph takes the day, and what a day it turned out to be. Grisly weather conditions, and the mighty Norwegian, well, threw it down. Maybe not the Norwegian you thought would do it on the day, but these conditions surely had to beckon for greatness, and greatness we got. Cancellara, not a happy man. There's plenty out there as well that knew that this day was going to come down to a crucial run for the line. A glorious picture that will be gracing the cycling press. The winner of the Milan-San Remo, the 105th edition. You're looking at him. It's Alexander Christoph.
In just a few minutes' time,
Cancellara in second place. Ben Swift of Team Sky coming home in third. Wow, Ben Swift, we said not yet for Ben Swift. Well, it wasn't for anyone except Alexander Kristoff on the day. Ben Swift came very, very close to phenomenal glory, such an early part of his career. Cancellara, you see how much he still wanted it. Wasn't going to happen. Lobato in fourth place, ahead of Mark Cavendish, easing up at the line fifth. Colbrelli sixth. Zdenek Štibar finishing in seventh place today. Well, the Milan San Remo is always a joy, and here is our winner. Wow!
Alexander, huge congratulations. You weren't amongst the top favourites for today's stage, but I know you were confident beforehand. How do you feel?
I feel great. It was a fantastic victory, and Luca helped me a lot in the final, and yeah, I didn't really believe it when I crossed the line that I won San Remo. I was hoping maybe for a top 10 finish, and to win is incredible.
How were you feeling when you saw Cavendish and Greipel still in the group?
I thought I would have difficulties to beat them, but a sprint after 300k is different than after 200k. So normally I don't lose so much power even if it's long. So yeah, I was trying for the win, and I was happy that I could take it.
Thank you very much.
A place in Valhalla guaranteed for Alexander Kristoff. One of the Vikings we had today. Wow, what a delivery it was at the end. And look at the men he beat. Cancellara, Ben Swift, Lobato, Mark Cavendish, Colbrelli, Štibar, Modolo, Čolek, defending champion, finishing ninth ahead of Peter Sagan, whose tactics didn't work today. The pace was just so high towards the end. A brave Philippe Gilbert finishing 13th. Oh my goodness, what a day of torment for everybody. San Remo, the city of flowers, and a big bunch of them are going to Alexander Kristoff.